everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Civ Show podcast, where we suck so you don't have to. I'm your host, MoySauce.
Razing Zozo.
And Nystagmus.
And we have a lot of interesting topics for you today. We've pulled a lot of topics from Reddit, and there's some really interesting ones that I know Nystagmus, I think, has a lot of opinions on, so we'll get into that. But
so every time I don't have an opinion.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true. You and Zo, most opinionated people I know. It's a true fact. First topic is last week's game. Zo, what happened in
what's
last
up?
Week's game?
I don't have an opinion about this one.
I have no opinion.
Go ahead on that.
I have no opinion on it. No. It was quite the game. Especially because, the outcome was just so awesome. So as some may recall, a few weeks ago, I feel like it was 3 weeks ago now. I won a game of TheCivShow. It was the wackiest thing ever. It was the last game of the Van Bradley Spectacular. And we actually had an extra player of the Van Bradley and whoever else is available in August Spectacular. We had Peppermint Butler join. And what was the game that we were playing? It was
People mean.
People mean?
Yeah, something like that.
People mean. I don't even know what that means. People mean. What now you're gonna have to refresh my memory. What does people mean?
It's the opposite of humankind.
That's right. That's right. That's why I won. Because we were playing humankind. Okay, I don't remember the specifics of my victory. Only that, I think technically Peppermint Butler whooped us.
The one before that?
Era score. That's what it was. Era score. Okay, my bad too. Because the last game I was talking about was, you're right, the last game we played in August was Humankind. I won the era score, so I got to choose the format, and I decided to do a Knights of the Solomon mod pack and Secret Society with Extended Religion. So we did not have Nystagmus, unfortunately. He was unavailable. But we did have the two other members of the D&D show on, and we were joined by SG and Owls. And we had a 4-way bloodbath, as the Knights of Solomon is a kind of strong secret society. And since I won the game ultimately, we're going to end up doing another round of it, so we get Nystagmus's perspective on it too. But it was a game where we all chose civs that we believe would break the Knights of Solomon, which right off the bat, right at the beginning, you get points towards prophets, points towards generals, and extra religious spreads. So we had Byzantium, we had Grand Colombia, we had the Mali, and we had Spain.
Oh, that's what it was. Spain.
Yeah,
that's
you
right.
were
I
Spain.
couldn't remember. Okay, yeah. Now this whole game just came back to me.
Is there ever a week where you remember who you played as?
I know.
Only when I write it down. I didn't write this down.
And I gotta say, I was Grand Colombia, and my goodness, what a fantastic civilization they are. It is almost entirely in their +1 movement. That's the only thing that mattered, having such an amazing movement. But yeah, I was pretty much dominating most of the game. Moy declared war on me really early, because I had a settler
Wait, what do you think I did, Nystagmus? There was a settler there. What do you think I did?
Did you send it out unguarded and you took a settler?
I did, but wait, what happened? What do you think happened afterwards?
I'm assuming that Zo didn't respond well to that, so
okay, A, I brought him back to my empire and settled him, or B, I deleted him.
Oh, you deleted the settler.
Oh, 100%. I deleted the settler. Do you know how mad Zo was?
I was not
settler?
pleased.
I honestly don't think that there was nothing you were gonna do that was gonna make him happy. Like you've settled it.
Yeah, like he would have lost the city, like,
Yeah,
or it
but
would
I
have
think Zo
flipped.
has a special hatred towards people who delete settlers and workers,
Yeah,
especially when
no,
they're
I'm
his.
not. I'm not fond of settler deletion at all. It's just so inhumane. So
Kind of
yes,
sounds like you should have had a scout
I should
or
have. I
some
was
sort of
not. I was not
military
paying
unit of some
attention.
kind that was
I
guarding the
Yes,
settler.
I was not paying attention. No, I was not.
Okay.
Like, honestly, like, it was the area was like, I could see the area that I was in. There was no barbarians. I just did not notice this dumb warrior that was down there. That Moy's
It
warrior.
was in the middle of your empire. Like there was
Yeah,
just a
yeah,
hole
yeah.
in like the
He
land,
couldn't.
so I just stayed
He
there and I just found him right in the middle of your empire. I was
Yeah,
like, "Oh, thank
yeah.
you."
So Moy declared war on me, and I was like all for it because I'm like Gran Colombia, and they're like just spectacular. And I had on my other border, I had the Owls had all of these missionaries ready to go. He was ready to come and try to
Oh
convert
yeah.
me. And I was I told him that I made a line. I said, if you cross this line, it's war. Like, and I put the tags down so that everyone could see. We had this perfect boundary between us and these two volcanoes and then three hexes. And like, as long as you don't pass there. And he was doing these things where like he would move them through, but he wouldn't stop in that in the neutral zone to try and bother me. And when Moy declared war on me, he took that opportunity to start to send this army of missionaries to try and convert me to his faith. So I instantly declared war on him, and unfortunately, you do not send missionaries against Gran Colombia because of that +1 movement. I was able to catch all of them and just destroy them. So the entire game from then on forward, it was me versus Moy and Owls with with SG kind of neutral, but like I was helping him.
No, he was on your side. I was
He
trying
was
to
on my
convince him to
side.
be not on your side, but he was on your
Yeah, well,
side.
you're
He was
is
pretty
because
passionate to be on your side too.
his because boy, your arguments were so weak. You're trying to throw. Oh,
They
he's
were
like, oh,
not weak.
he took Crusade from you, and it's
Okay,
like,
so here, no, here, this time, it's neutral party here. We have a judge. Okay, you can't
Am I
say.
truly neutral? I don't know.
So SG's playing Byzantium, and Zo, as his religion, takes Crusade, right? And I said, SG, Zo took Crusade from you, the one ability that's made for Byzantium. And he wants to ally with you. I'm like, no, he doesn't. He just wants to not die. He clearly wants to harm you. He's not on your agenda. He's on his own agenda, and he took it away from you. You want to side with that? That was my argument.
So that was his argument.
Okay.
My rebuttal to that is, in order to get the Knights of Solomon, you have to either get a goody hut or defeat a barbarian. Okay, those are the two ways to get it. And I really wanted to help him get it. He was having bad luck, and by the classical era, he still had not got it. Everyone else had gotten it. So I said to him, listen here, my friend. There is a barbarian camp. It's about 10 squares forward from where he had this wounded scout. The scout probably had 3 hit points left. Okay. This is a barbarian camp. I got an archer. I will take out the guy that's in the camp so that you can go in there, take it, and get your Knights of Solomon. And I was a man of my word. I let him. He came in. I directed him. He couldn't see where it was. I directed him to where it was. He went. He took out I took out the barbarian so that this critically wounded 3 hit point scout could take out the camp. He did, and he got his knights. So he was actually able, and without that, he would not have been able to get. So I acknowledge that I
That's
did
true.
indeed
That's true.
take Crusade, but I gave him the real olive branch of I made sure he got the secret society that he needed.
So
Okay.
here's how I'm going to come down on this, right?
All right,
And
okay.
Moy may not really like the answer, but
No, I kind of expecting this one.
so I never thought it was like when people get upset, like you took this thing that's supposed to be for my sake. Like, no, this is all free for all, right? If you really need Crusade, you got to rush for religion and get the belief, right? Like it's not like it's not like a gentleman saying no. Like, come on, it's taking Crusade is not the same as say, I don't know, something along the lines of taking someone's settler and deleting it in front of them. It's not the same thing. And so like I don't see that as an act of war or someone acting against you. Crusade's a very powerful belief. Like, why wouldn't anyone want that, right? Like,
no, it's I was just trying to make him not be his friend. Like,
he was trying to peddle.
Now, I would argue
trying to peddle propaganda, and it didn't land.
Moy made a good argument, right? That like, you know, Zo did take a belief that would be obviously something that Byzantium would want, but you know, in the other shoot on the other foot, like, can't really fault them, right? For taking like a powerful belief, right?
Dang it.
It's almost like if like everything was up for grabs, right? And one was like, you get 1,000 gold for every wonder you get, and you were China, and someone else took that from you. Like, who else wouldn't take? Like, why wouldn't anyone else take that? Right? It's your fault for not getting it first.
Fair.
Right?
I was the second person to found my religion, and I was just a little bit behind the first person. So like, he didn't. Yeah. He was the last one. SG was the last one to found his religion, and it was in like the mid to late classical era, right?
Okay, so honestly, like, if you're Byzantium, you got to be founding your religion.
yeah. Now, of this particular format that we had done, I had the object of the game was to conquer cities. Okay, and it was an era score victory, like, so where we do the tally at every era. So I made sure by the end of the classical era that I had taken over a city-state. And unfortunately, nobody else until near the very end of the game took over a single city. So I was racking up points for the city-state that I had taken, and that's how I ultimately ended up winning, because nobody ended up taking any cities. Now this
SG
war
did at the end, he took one.
He may have taken one, but I had already by then I'd racked up, I think, 3 points by then. So he would have needed to take, you know, and an enemy city or whatever. Now Moy got his comeuppance. Okay, there was great comeuppance because we had this. He called it the scout party, because we had this point where we had 2 scouts that, because of they were between a mountain and water. So because of where they were, neither one of them could move it. But in fact, mine could move through him, just because of my +1 movement. But his couldn't move through mine.
Over a river.
So
really?
Yeah, over a river I could get beyond, because I have a movement of 4.
But it takes all your movement to go over a river, no matter what.
Not all. 2 takes 2 movement.
Takes
2 movement to go over a river.
Maybe
2
3.
movement. 2. It's 2 movement to go over anything that's not flat terrain. I'm pretty sure 2 movement is what it is.
I think you're wrong, but okay, whatever.
I had a movement of 4, and I was able to click on the square behind you
3
and get
go
there.
3
Well,
and 1.
I had a movement of 4, so I had enough. Okay. You did not.
Well, thanks for staying there with me. I appreciate
it. So you declared this as a scout party. I didn't. I was like, well, we just can't move. We're just stuck here. We can't move. So I sent my scout out, and I got through, and then I had another scout come and take his spot so that Moy couldn't come and scout through my land. And as I was scouting, as fate would have it, I came across an undefended settler. And I had, like, when I saw it, I was like, I still have 3 movement. Yes, I went, I took it. The look of elation on my face, like, and I said, somebody please clip. Please clip.
It was
look
clipped.
Of absolutely elation. I was just it was like, this is poetic justice. I was like, yes!
Did someone clip
it? Can we look at it? I haven't looked at
it.
I don't
know. Is it?
I couldn't watch it. I'm like, I can't watch this right now.
If someone could throw that clip on there, it was just so perfect. And I was so just overjoyed, and like Moy obviously completely devastated, because that's always the worst when poetic justice kicks in.
But I knew I couldn't do anything about it. I'm like, oh, this is just fate. Like, this is just meant to happen. Yeah. Like, I'm just a bad person. Yeah. I'm sorry.
And I beeline to my Luneros, and it was an interesting game. I think it would have been really interesting if we had a little more time to play it out, because I was like pumping out cores of Luneros, and they didn't matter that he had pikemen. My guys were strong enough to kill you at that point. Because freaking with the generals, the +5 and everything else, the Luneros were attacking at, like, I don't know, 78 or something like that, +5. So it was just crazy what these things can do. So yeah, I had a genuinely awesome game. I love Grand Colombia. I think more so Spain and Byzantium had like an epic war, like just a
Crazy, just absolute
just a
bloodbath.
bloodbath of murder and death back and forth, and nobody getting any ground on the other. I think
I was
I
so
think
close to taking a city
slowly,
though. I was so, but then he teched up,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
couldn't do it. I have the clip.
yeah,
Do you want to watch the clip?
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to
Show
watch the
everyone the
clip.
clip. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so tune into the stream here. I'm gonna fade into it. Here we go. You don't even have
Did
a
your
reason. No, you're
accent.
stuttering. You don't even have a
I
reason. You're
declared.
trying to make it up as you go.
Boom! Oh, sweet vengeance! Oh my God, sweet vengeance!
No.
Oh my God! Yes! 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 Clip
Take it,
that!
he got a settler, right?
Somebody
Yeah,
clip
he took
that,
he took my
please!
settler.
Is there no sound for it?
Sweet
There is.
You have to-
vengeance! Oh my goodness!
I did unmute it.
It's
Why?
so
I can
delicious.
hear it.
Oh, it's a long clip,
Moy's
man.
unit. Oh,
Damn, I didn't brag that hard.
Moy's
Okay, relax.
unit. Oh my
Relax.
goodness.
I'm so
So
hurt here. I'm
good.
so hurt. I'm like, I just
okay,
don't want to
so
hear this
it's
thing.
all
I don't want to hear it.
All the population
Oh my
in
God! It
capital
was.
is
It just. I haven't had a moment on the Civ show in a long time where I had so much, like, obviously this sort of elation can only happen between me and Moy, where it was just so like in your face. How does it feel? There you
Oh,
go.
man.
Here's some empathy for you, and it was such a glory, and I think the best part about the game in general, like me and Moy were laying it on really thick with one another, but like neither one of us were getting. It's not like the old Civ show where sometimes it could get cringy. It was just
it was more like
genuine fun.
like us recruiting. Like, I'm trying to recruit owls, and why Zo is the
Yeah.
worst person
Yeah.
ever, and then
Yeah.
Zo is trying to convince SG that I'm
Yeah.
the worst person ever.
Oh man.
Oh man, I go away for
It was
1
so
week and you guys are at each other's throats, man.
Oh, it was
Then
gold.
we
It
had
was a good
no neutral party. It was just
no
a-
neutral party. No neutral party to stop us. Yeah. So it was a genuinely fun map, fun game. But of course, ultimately, I think we only got to the industrial era. Do we get to the industrial era?
Yeah,
Like,
because you got the arrows. I got pike and shots.
Yeah.
SG got field cannons, and then I couldn't push into his base, so we got pretty far. Yeah.
we got pretty far. In particular, I did not build like any campuses for most of the game, but I was like ahead in science.
Yeah, that's so impressive. That's
It
crazy.
was all one wonder that's become my
No, does
favorite
it need
wonder.
any book learning?
Yeah, no. It was all the
Temanaki,
Temanaki, yeah. Like, oh my goodness. I just had this one city that was like all floodplains. And it was along with Pagula, Pagalia, whatever, Pagilia,
Pingala.
Pingala, and a bunch of irrigation. Was just this big city making tons of science. Man, that wonder is fantastic. And then all your marshes are also good for science and production. So it just Gran Colombia is just so awesome. I took choral music.
Yeah, you did.
And I built like lots of temples. And so now you'll see Nystagmus, you'll see this secret society. It is powerful, but my argument was any secret society is powerful in the right hands, right? When you take Brazil and are pretty much the Void Singers or even Hermetic Order, they can get away with they're just incredible. The Germany with vampires, or actually I like Germany even with
owls,
the owl.
yeah, or Rough
Yeah.
Rider Teddy with owls, or
with
Portugal
owls, you
with
just get
owls.
so anyone who gets already gets a policy card with the owls getting you're basically
yeah, Kublai Khan with owls is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Three
three
policy
right off
cards.
the bat. So it goes to four
Man.
right off the bat. Four off the bat, right? Because they get
No, it's
plus
3.
one. They get
No,
one
so
for being
he's got
Kublai
2,
Khan.
and then plus
Yeah.
1 from then it's 3.
Yeah, 3 total. Well, you get 2, and then he gets 1 as 1, and then Owls gets you 1. So that's 4 total policy cards. for despotism, for the simple government.
No,
4.
it's not. What? It's 3.
Yeah. Okay, Moy, this is simple math. Now you're being silly. Okay.
You
Default
get
is
one
2.
of each. You
They get
one.
plus
No, you get
1.
one.
They get plus 1 for being Kublai Khan. He gets he gets one
you're too
economy
much.
card.
You get one military, one economic. That's the first government.
Yeah.
Kublai Khan gets plus
Okay.
1. That's 2.
Yeah,
And then
that's
owls,
2.
that's 3 total.
Okay, you're making weird math because it's a base of 2, right?
How is
It's
it a base of 2? It's not a base
Okay.
of 2.
Okay, it is a base of 2. Everybody, the first government you get, despotism, is one military and 1 economy. Everybody
Yes.
starts with that. Everybody.
Yes.
So 2.
Yes.
2 is the base. Okay, Kublai Khan gets
talking about
an
total
additional
cards?
economic
You're
card.
talking about total cards.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm talking about only economic cards.
I'm not
Yeah,
talking about
he's
only
economic cards.
economic
I'm talking about
cards.
cards. I'm saying policy cards. 2 plus 1 plus 1. You get 4.
If that was the original argument, then I apologize. I
Policy
did not
card.
understand that properly.
Policy
Okay.
card. 4.
What?
Okay.
Sure.
Germany gets 4. Okay.
Guys,
Greece
it's
would get
not
4.
Sunday anymore, man. Calm down.
No. It's
I
look,
can't
hey,
help it, man. I can't listen to this
Butler.
nonsense. Just nonsense all the time.
Peppermint Butler raids us with 45 people, and right away, like 10 of them leave because of your math. Anyways,
Seems legit.
It is a strong, and Nystagmus, you'll agree, it is strong because right off the bat they get plus 2 profit points, plus 2 general points, and plus 2 faith charges. Okay, so that's a pretty significant advantage. The only thing is, once you get your profit, you don't get that bonus anymore. And once you get a couple generals, you don't really need a lot of generals. So I found that like it was less interesting later on. Then in the medieval era, you get a special building called the Temple of Solomon. And the Temple of Solomon replaces the temple. It gives you 5 faith, which is pretty significant. And it makes it that your military units are 50% cheaper. Okay, so you end up being able to, but the problem is you have all this military, but in order to do that, you have to have that most of your cities have built a temple, which means that they're not building other things. So I always found the problem was, I don't know if Moy found this, well, you were Spain, but your money gets killed. Like, yeah, you've got a big army, but it just destroys. Now, that's why we put Spain and Mali in there. The philosophy being that their economic power will allow them to have the best of both worlds. So they'll have lots of armies, but also the means to support them. And I think that's exactly what happened. And being I think myself
and also helped a lot. Those
Mali
were massive, just massive.
So and Owls doesn't like Mali, doesn't use Mali, so he kind of, it was harder for him. He started on a desert tile where all he needed to do, and sometimes it sucks with ones that are dependent on terrain. He just needed to move over like one turn, like two spaces over, and there's all of this desert. But he built it right on the desert tile, so basically the Mali's biggest bonus, which is you need for every adjacent desert tile you get food and faith. He didn't get it for the first city that he built. So, obviously he's going into the game not liking Mali because he did that, right? That's definitely more of a him problem, but
he had a rough game.
He had a rough game. And Mali is such a slow civ. They're a snowball civ, but they take so long to get going because of that production, minus 30% of production. And where he built his opening city, that made it really, really hard for him. But meanwhile, I had like an amazing start, pretty much on my own. There's no Nystagmus there, so that meant that I got to be starting on my own. And yeah, it was a fun bloodbath back and forth. Naturally, Spain and Byzantium started like right beside each other. But Mali was like at a perfect distance away from Spain, and they had apparently insane trade routes. So the game,
and we learned that Spain is a direct counter to Byzantium.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was
he could not get in my land.
It was so frustrating, and I could just imagine for SG, because like you need to spread your faith, right? If you can't spread your faith with Byzantium, you're in trouble. And Moy's Inquisitors were just, you successfully converted one of my cities, gone. Oh,
Here's
you did
how
it
crazy
again.
So with that religions expanded mod, I took the
Witchcraft
belief
or which? Yeah.
50% cost to inquisitors as Spain already. Okay, Spain has best special inquisitors.
Yeah, I took that when I played them we had
Right.
that mod.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
dude. So it came in
remember
handy.
yeah.
It came
So
in handy
when you came in with
today.
all your things, all I did was I just bought
Oh,
all the Inquisitors and killed all your guys.
yeah, I completely understand now. I completely understand. They were worth like 30 faith. 30 faith. And they had 8 charges each.
Oh, and like Moy had the audacity to break down the math to SG about how wrong he was about like, well, just think of it this way. Mine are only costing 30 faith, and you have to spend 200 on yours.
I'm like,
And
it's
yeah,
not worth your time. I'm like, you're gonna spread it like 4
it was
times in one city just to get a majority. And I click one button and it's all gone, just completely wiped. And that
it
cost
was
me on
terrible.
a per charge
Nothing,
basis probably
nothing,
3
nothing.
faith. 3 faith.
Dirt. Yeah, dirt it cost him.
Oh
So
my
yeah, we
God.
discovered that Spain is a natural. It's the rock to the scissors of the Byzantine, and
Mhm.
so yeah. But in the end, technology won the day, right? And yeah, you got the field cannons, was able to thwart you. So yeah, I won the game only because early in the game I took over a city state and nobody else bothered. The Mali ended up having very well timed walls go up because I was sending an expedition force to the Mali, pretty big one,
He
and then his walls
defended
came up.
way better than I thought he would. I thought
Yeah,
he
he did
was
it. He
dead to
did it good.
rights.
He did it
I was
good. Now
very surprised.
I was my niter. All of my catapults were not upgraded, and like that's where I made the comments. Like there should be a way to like get a supply line going to the
Oh,
front line where you can
yeah.
upgrade your units if you
If
can
you're
get
Sues
like.
of a city state on the way, you stop by there
You
and you
can do
upgrade all
that.
your
Yeah, you
units
can do
and
that.
you
But I was
keep
saying
going.
like if a support unit, if there was a
Yeah.
support unit that if they were occupying the square, you can upgrade even if it costs more.
Or
I
just
thought that'd be
it costs double or 3 times the amount.
yeah.
Like
So that was detrimental to me is that I didn't have the means to take down his walls.
So
And
did
when
you have catapults for like 600 years again?
I
you
did. I
did,
had
you had
Catapult
core
catapults. I had
catapults. You had
core
core
catapults,
catapults.
core catapults. And unfortunately, the turn that I decided to attack his city walls, I totally forgot that I had given the okay to SG to take away my Sues of which city state was that? The one that the one that lets you attack the walls directly.
Oh, a cod. No,
A
I took
COD.
that. I took that eventually
You
because I
took
didn't
it
want either
eventually,
of
but
you to have it.
I
Yeah.
lent it to him, and I forgot, and I attacked because he said he'd want it, but he didn't like let me know when he was going to take it. He had just let me know, and I was like, yeah, okay, that's fine. So I attacked the city walls, thinking that, and it was a devastating. I was like, no, I lost. Oh, and it went horrible. And I had to like retreat. So I wasn't able to take out any of the Mali cities, but I racked up enough points that in the end I won. So it was a very fun game, lots of good laughs had by all, and I've chosen for this week we're going to do another round of it, but we're going to add another mod. It's the deity mod. You said,
So
Moy?
maybe we can do both just for like the
Maybe.
real giggles of this.
Let's see how
So
nuts
just
we
see
can
how
make it.
nuts we can get this. So we're gonna do half price technologies and civics, and then we're gonna have it where we're playing as basically deity AI, where we start with 3 settlers, like 5 warriors, and a builder in your first 3 cities.
Yeah.
That and like just
And
see if we can get to death robots and
we'll
have
do
a
the same.
showdown.
We're
Have
doing
an
the same thing.
absolute showdown.
Now I'd like to do the same, like where we have a leader pool of like civs that would rock, because we're gonna have the Knights of Solomon on again.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a
Yeah.
bloodbath.
Mhm.
But we can switch it up if we felt the Mali was a bit of a although I think the Mali would work, but you do have to play them right. You do have to use them correctly. Spain worked.
Spain worked.
I think Spain is now a legit like medium tier civ. As
They're
much as I hate
good.
tiers,
They're
they're
very
good.
good.
Yeah, they are religion, they are military, and they are financial.
Yeah.
The only crappy thing about them is on the tiny map they don't get that continent bonus, and I just find they don't start Like they're
Yeah,
supposed to start near geothermal. It doesn't happen
yes.
enough.
But then
Doesn't happen enough.
also they're like they get the cores early too for their boats. Like that's really good. Like TGM showed us the hammer with that.
Yeah.
How
Oh my god. He
powerful that
destroyed
is.
me. He destroyed me. Came in that game and just like my only naval city. He took it out and like done. I'm like, oh, all right, that was terrible. So yeah, we'll probably do. I would be okay though with the leader pool if we wanted to have more than 5, like if we did do 6 or 7, as long as like we look and say, listen, we want the best of the best to totally abuse the Knights of Solomon. And that's the aim. The aim is to abuse the Knights of Solomon and have a lot. So like I think Mongolia with Genghis Khan would be pretty fantastic. I think that like anyone who uses generals, so Macedon, they have they get general points, I believe, for killing things. Not to mention their barracks have that, like I think every unit you produce, you get like 25% of the production in science.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Macedon's
so
so strong.
oh yeah, but like that's the point. Is like let's break the game. Let's
You can put
see
Zulu
how
in there, I think. That'd
the Zulu might
they're
work. Yeah, the Zulu.
they
Yeah,
would
Zulu
just
would work.
wreck
Core,
house, man.
cores and generals running around. Yeah, I think that would work really well. I think the argument for Khmer was made, but like that, it's not war.
It's just because like I think their elephants are interesting, like they're fun, and then the Grandmaster's Chapel. Just have faith be your military resource. Just bust out so many units with faith.
Oh, Pooks, there is more than a rumor. Okay, his return will be triumphant, and we might have a little surprise for you guys. A little surprise for you guys coming your way. Okay, just stay tuned for that. Okay,
But moving on to
moving on. It was a good game, though.
It
was a good game.
It was a very good game. To some Reddit topics. We're gonna talk about some Reddit topics. I found some good discussions today, and a topic that we're gonna call Nystagmus. What are we calling this?
Are you going to put me on the spot for it now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was like Civ drama. That's what I thought we were hunting
Civ
for.
drama?
Like yeah.
I could use some work. Okay.
How about like the house civs of Beverly Hills? I don't know if you get the housewives,
Yeah. House Civs of
Well,
Beverly
House
Hills.
Civs
It's
of
got to be
Beverly
drama.
Hills.
You don't go to Reddit without having drama, guys. Come on, it's Reddit.
9021 Civ. Here we go.
9021 Civ. Okay, so you have
Reddit,
a couple...
Reddit's place.
Well,
That's a
and
good
like
one, too.
this came up too because like I don't know if people have been paying attention, but like on Reddit lately, like there's quite a few memes about Civ and humankind, and so yeah. Anyways, Moy, what do you got for us today on the real house civs of Beverly Hills?
This one is a really good topic. This one is actually legitimately one of the most upvoted discussions, I think, in this subreddit. It comes from a username named Arthur Don't, and he says, or she says, I wish they do away with India as one Civ, or at least make it just one of the Indian Civs for Civ 7. Civ, or India, feels like it's a bunch of different cultures, and they feel like each culture can be broken out as an individual civilization. They compare having India to like having a Civ called Europe, with cities being London, Madrid, and Munich, led by Joan of Arc. So I want to hear if you guys think he, she, they have a valid point. Should India be separate civilizations per culture?
Let me lead, because Nystagmus will actually be able to give us a legitimate historic reason one way or the other. Okay, and I'm not going to go in that direction because I don't know it, and he does. So I would argue that part of Civ is very, very much a fictional simplification, and that the leaders of Civ, some of them were legit political leaders or leaders of, or kings or queens of the empires, or emperors of their empires. But a lot of Civ is more an idealization of the people in question, to the point where like even things like there are buildings where, you know, I think an example, I think the Arabs special building, there was only one in existence. But
Even the Poland's is like that too.
yeah, there's only one. There's only one that
market.
actually
I can't remember
ever.
what it's
Yeah,
called.
that only one that ever actually existed, and they've exaggerated and have. Well, these are buildings, and every city can have them. So I think that Civ doesn't so much go for historic accuracy as more of a. It's more of a fictional landscape of strategic fun, and they use the civilizations as inspiration, for each of them. You know, the same thing I think is true. Like you look at stuff like the Kree. You know, a lot of inaccuracies technically with the Kree, but like they're trying to capture the spirit of that of that culture. And you know there's the same thing, you know, with many of the civs where is it historically accurate? No, it is a historic fiction to be sure, that is within the confines of the civilization evolution, which, as we know, Sid Meier's has between every game, 1/3 new, 1/3 improving something old, and 1/3 dropping completely. And it's just this evolving game. Civ 1 is still more or less like Civ 6 in a lot of ways, and there are certain leaders that were in Civ 1 that they just want to make sure we're still represented throughout the game, and it's just what players anticipate and look forward to, and it's just sort of how the game has evolved. So that's where I guess I would be against that.
Yep. Okay.
Like I think that's a mod. That sounds like a mod to me that you could do for anybody. You could do for any civilization. You could do a mod like that.
Nystagmus, let's hear your thoughts on this.
So I think there's like a good like compromise here because the user in question does have a good point, in the sense that, like, you know, it's not supposed to be like perfect, right? But you can at least flesh it out so that it's at least representative, because in terms of like diversity on the Indian subcontinent, it's like more diverse than Europe is, and we get a Europe that has, you know, half a dozen to 10 civilizations. So, you know, we don't just say, they're right, they don't just say Europe, because you say, well, you know, Europeans, there's different languages, and they're like, yeah, and India has something like 10 official languages on the subcontinent. It's had several different empires. In fact, the Indus Valley civilizations were probably competing with Mesopotamia for the very first settlements that humans have ever built. In addition to the empire that Chandragupta was part of, which was the Mauryan Empire, which Pooks points out in chat. That was actually an empire in antiquity, when the contemporaries of that empire were like the ancient Greeks, and the ancient Greeks and the Persians basically were like the contemporaries for that empire. After that empire, you had the classical Indian history, which had the Gupta Empire, right? That lasted for a few hundred years. And then finally, in the medieval Indian empires, you had the Mughal Empire, which is, and this is a very abbreviated form of it. There are other dynasties and empires between these, and all had very, rich histories and leaders that they can pull from, right? And so I do think that you can still make it simplistic and play with the fictional part with the different structures and stuff like that, while still accurately representing the Indian subcontinent to the point where someone who is from that area may feel better about how the history is being portrayed. Because, you know, just saying one India, that's kind of contentious on the subcontinent itself. Remember, after the British left and partition occurred, that was a civil war that occurred, right? So it is important to like at least recognize that there's a big gap between having Gandhi and Chandragupta, right? There are a lot of like people and things in between that, to kind of do that. So it's a very diverse subcontinent that you can draw a ton of really interesting empires from to make part of. And so, and still, while still keeping the spirit of what they did to Europe, right? While having the Romans, the Germans, the Gauls, right? And there's limited possibilities, I think. I think they also had a point where I'm trying to think of anyone else in the game that is a leader of a civ that wasn't an actual leader of the civ, right?
Yeah,
like because
Gandhi,
Gandhi
right? Yeah.
was a nationalist, an Indian nationalist who fought against the British Empire, but he never became the prime minister of India in the new Indian democracy that founded. He was just a very influential character. And I'm trying to think if there's like another example of that in the game, which it kind of, and this is like, I'm not saying that this is the case, but like when you put Gandhi as leader, it's almost like you're trying to make India as a civilization, and then just think of the most famous person you could think of from India.
Maybe like Sumeria, Gilgamesh. We think he was a real person, but he might have been also a completely fictional character, right?
Yeah, and same with Coupe. Yeah, Coupe, I guess Pooks is good. But still, like, even in their fictional character form, they were a leader. Like, they were the person.
Yeah. And I think there's something to be said about sometimes it's just bad writing. And you got to remember, like, Civ 1 was designed, I think, predominantly for an American audience. And, you know, when an American thinks of India, the only name they might recognize is Gandhi. So
that's why I meant, yeah, that's why I thought maybe that was the reason. And you may, say like the someone from the American audience may not know anything about the Mughal Empire, right? Which is also, if you don't pronounce it correctly, people will confuse it with the Mongol Empire because it's spelled very similarly and sounds similarly. But I think in this, as we're going forward into the future, it will let people go, oh, I didn't know about that, and they can go learn about it, right?
Yeah.
Civilization is very good at making the Civ wiki is very good at like giving you at least a Cole's Note version of what the heck was going on. And so that's something that at least a learning experience for people to know that these other empires existed.
So funny story about the first civilization. I was reading and still am reading Sid Meier's memoir, and part of him making the first civilization was him and his business partner that he started his game company with at I can't remember what the game company's called, but it does Microcorp or something. Microprose. That's it. He had to actually step away, and he gave all the voting power to his business partner so that he can go away and work on civilization, because he just had a hunch that it would be pretty good. And he was no longer the owner or co-owner of Microprose, but instead a individual contractor working for Microprose. So he quit, made all of civilization, and I guess like it's just one person essentially making this game. So like if you think about, I don't know, maybe Wikipedia wasn't really a thing at the time. You can still like learn about others, like if you go into the library or whatever, you learn about these civilizations. But there's also, I think, a limit of knowledge that he may have had and just thought of like, who's from India? Oh, Gandhi. Okay, let's pick him. So Gandhi was in the first civilization, and I think from that point, because he was in the first one and he became this meme of Gandhi's
he became a meme,
nuke you, that now he's in every civilization from then on. So I think if Civ was made today, Gandhi would not be the leader of India. But since it was made way back when and it became this like phenomenon, now he's in the game all the time.
Yeah, like technically Stalin was the leader of Russia in Civ 1. But I think that was the only time that was true. I know by Civ 3, I think it was Catherine the Great. I don't think Civ 2 had him as the leader. So that was one that didn't make the cut, and I get that, because Stalin, kind of controversial leader of Russia. There are many other leaders that arguably did way more for Russia than what Stalin did. And he didn't really, and I think Mao was the first
Chairman Mao was,
of China in Civ 1. Yeah. So I think there's something to be said there about the imagination of the designer at the time. And how much of it do you carry over and how much of it do you rewrite, to make better, especially by Civ 2, they likely would have had a whole team involved. Right.
Right. I haven't gotten to that point yet in his book. So I don't actually know. Yeah. I just finished actually the Civ 1 part. But good discussion. Moving on to the next one. So this is a good one. This new user who's just new to Civ 6 named Furry Lizard started playing Civ 6 3 days ago. Last night I was playing until after 3 a.m. Is this normal?
Just one more turn.
Yeah, there's a meme behind this this thought in this Reddit post that the person should feel I don't know. Like, I know that the main question is going to be how late have you stayed up to play? Like,
Yep.
I've actually like had a game where I played and then I had to go to school when I stopped. I didn't go to bed. I just played all the way through the night and then I had to go back to class in university.
Wow.
Uh,
You just
that
didn't
was the
realize,
first.
or you like kind of consciously knew it was pretty late?
No, I was in a room that didn't have windows or anything like that, so I didn't know what the time was.
No.
And
Wow,
so
that's a good mix.
it was because I used to play in my basement at home, right? So that was our place to hang out. So there were no windows in the basement, and so I didn't know what the time was. I was just playing. I
It's
was
like
just like,
playing in a
okay,
casino.
and
Yeah.
so I was doing that, and then um, when when you know it's like supposed to be dark, and then you start noticing the sun
And the
like
birds
coming
start,
through
like, you start hearing the
You hear
birds.
the
You're like,
you hear
oh,
the
small
the
window.
morning birds. Yeah, yeah.
That's what happened. That's how I noticed. I'm like, oh, I have to go to class. That's the first and last time I've ever done that. But yeah, that's the latest I've ever stayed up playing a game.
Zo?
Oh god, I don't even want to like admit like how
Dude,
bad.
I'm right up there
Like,
with you. Don't worry, man. I think I'm right up there with
I
you.
like
We might have done
so
it
like
together. Like, we might have done this.
probably who knows. I get pretty carried away with my strategy games. Civilization and Master of Orion have both of them. I've had where I start at like 7 in the evening, and then yeah, I'm playing. I think the I think I once remember starting a new game at like 4 in the morning, and yeah,
What?
and playing till like 10 in the morning. Yeah, I in the past, like I've been playing. I'm old. I've been playing strategy games for a long time, and I get very into the games that I play. So I do believe I've done that before. Where like yeah, I'll be playing till like 9, 10 in the morning. It's terrible. It's a horrible habit. Now I try to stop myself. The latest I might play is like 4 in the morning, and that's knowing that I have to get up at 7 or 8. Because I have responsibilities, and it's just I power through with coffee.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
well,
naps in the afternoon.
once you have children, you learn to function without sleep. Okay, Moy, you'll learn this
Okay.
one day,
I
young
think I will.
Padawan.
I think I will.
You'll learn it one day, and Nystagmus is already becoming proficient to operate without sleep. Although, as a medical student, he should by now know, and as a doctor,
Oh,
how
um,
sleep is for the weak. You know.
so that's actually because the games are like that was how long as I played games in medical school. I went 40 46-ish hours without sleep straight.
We're
Not
good.
That
playing
was
Civ though, right? Not playing
not
Civ.
playing safe. I was trying to make study notes for a test that was coming up, and I was really behind. And I literally made the mistake. It was my very first semester in medical school. I thought maybe I could just do the same thing I did in university, and I didn't go or I didn't make notes after my lectures for like 3 days. And you get behind so much material so quickly that I
Wow.
had to spend all that time on the weekend not sleeping to try to catch up on making all the notes. I made little cue cards so I can like study and stuff. Um,
Flashcards, yeah.
What about you,
No.
Moy?
Dude, I've 100% stayed up all night playing Civilization. I remember actually I had an 8 a.m. class, and
Wow.
I was already like, don't do this, folks. Don't do this. It was already like 3 a.m. And I'm like, well, I'm already staying up late. I may as well just stay up.
Yeah.
At this point.
It's already
I've had
late.
that. I've had that.
It's already
I'm like,
late. It
yeah,
can't get more late.
yeah.
It can't be
It
more
can't
Yeah,
late.
get any
You're
it
already
can't get
late.
more
worse,
late.
right?
Yeah,
Don't do that.
I'll
Don't
keep
do that.
myself awake. Yeah, don't
Guess
do that.
what? It gets worse.
It gets,
Yeah.
100%. And then 2 p.m. hits, and you're like,
You're
did I
dead.
die? I
Oh,
can't. Like, I'm so
oh
heavy.
man.
Oh,
I
God.
I recall many a night where that was the decision I made. It's like, well, I'll go to bed early. I'll go to bed at like 10 tonight. You know, and sometimes it would, but sometimes when you stay up that long, I don't know the signs of it, but your fucking body is like, all right, so be it, and then you're not tired. Like I've had times where like I stayed up all night and then I had to work a double shift at the theater and I wasn't getting off till midnight and then I still went out with friends and was up all night. You know, I've had that before, and it's just you get into this groove. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible because you're. It's not like all you need to do is have 10 hours of sleep. It's like your body's like, fuck. Sorry for my French, but like no, that's
So,
not how this works.
just say this, guys. Sleep debt's not an actual thing. That's not an actual thing. Like you can't just be like, I won't sleep till the weekend. I'll just catch up on the weekend. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
I think it's only like within a couple of hours. Like it can't be too unreasonable with it. I think that's what I heard. Okay, moving on to the last, or maybe one of the last. I have a few more, so let's see how much time we have. This one's an easy one though, so I'm gonna have Nystagmus start with this one. I think I know his answer, but this one comes from Matic. Which victory do you mostly go for, and why?
Oh, I usually try to go for science. It's my favorite to go to. It's one that it takes a long time, right? So it guarantees you a longer game because it's very hard to get to win it without getting to like the modern era. Second, it also helps you practice other aspects of the game because the game drags on longer. You have to be good at the other aspects of the game to survive, to like get to finish the science victory, and it makes you focus on production as well. So it's not just science; you have to focus on production. You also have to focus on culture because you have to stop other people from winning culture victories by producing your own domestic culture. And then you also have to be pretty good at maintaining a military enough, at least, to defend yourself from the invariable onslaught of the Hungarian prince, who is the Raven Prince, who wants to kill you every single time you spawn next to him. So that's my favorite my favorite victory.
Zo, I don't know your answer, Zo.
You don't know my answer?
No, I don't know your answer.
This is my answer. I don't care about victory. Honestly, I just play Civ because I love the game. I love the opening sequence of the game especially. And generally I'll play a game until either it becomes boring or if I realize it's snowballing in one direction or another, where it's just like, okay, I will win this, but it's going to take like another 30 turns. So the only time I go for a win condition is if I'm playing a challenge that I'm required to do a win condition. I literally play Civ because I just love the game. And most of the time I just play until the game's no longer entertaining me. And then I'll just start a new game. So yeah, I honestly don't play the game to achieve victory conditions. And maybe that's part of just being on the TheCivShow as long as I have, but like, I think as I recall, you know, I don't know. I'll just do that. I'll sometimes like I'll play the game until it's not fun anymore. I'm getting better at trying to achieve victory conditions, and that's just because sometimes we play games where you have to, and I do care more about winning if I'm playing against Moy and Nystagmus. For some reason, I care more about winning.
Because we're coming back next week.
coming back next week. So yeah, that's the case. So it's good and it's bad. There is bad stuff to it. Like how long it took me to frickin' figure out cultural victory. It was just because I never usually bothered going cultural victory. I found playing diplomatic victory more entertaining than playing cultural victory because it's like, all right, at least I know how to win. Once I get to 20, I win. You know, I get that. If I had to choose, though, I would probably say domination or religion because they're just I get them. I get them. Like science takes forever, culture takes forever, and diplomacy. I don't know. Diplomacy, it's interesting, but like it's a pigeonhole. Like literally, you have to build very specific wonders and you know, do very specific things. At least with the other ones, there's some versatility I find. No economic victory yet, so we'll work on that.
I feel like I always default to a domination victory. It's just the most entertaining, and it's the most entertaining when you're not out tech the other person. You have like the same sort of military, and you're kind of just trying to organize your units in just the right way to take their city. That's like the best part. So I love civs like Byzantium and like Norway, where you just go on a rampage. Oh yeah, count me in. especially in single player. Count me in. No remorse. These are just AI, stupid robots. Kill, 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 kill. I feel no better than do that. Okay, I can have.
You want to do one more? Get throw us one more.
One more. Okay, here is a Civ 7 feature request. Okay, this one's an interesting one. I've never thought about adding something like this into Civilization. You ready? So, what if there is a feature to automate 5 turns?
So it's like the 5-year plan, literally.
You're in your grind, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like you're just getting through these turns, and you can just say skip 5 turns, and it just skips 5 turns, simulates all of it. Would it make that end game grind better, or is it too strange, too weird?
It's interesting, but like, doesn't Civ like the years become shorter as time goes on?
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, so isn't that kind of counter in like, I get it. Like what you're basically saying is like, what if you could set it that, yeah, like 5 years goes by with the click of it.
And so like even the logic behind it would be, even like if you're laying siege to a city, the AI will take over and like actually still lay siege to the city. Kind of like just the AI plays 5 turns, but it just simulates it really quickly, right?
I don't know.
Very
that seems a
unciv-like.
whole lot of like. See, we've already kind of played that way, and the way that we played that way is when I drop out of a game and the computer takes over my stupid Civ and decides to delete all the crap I wanted and move stuff around for no good reason. Yeah, I don't trust the AI to do that for 5 turns in the end game. You're building a wonder it just cancels it for no good reason, or like I don't, or you're sieging a city and it decides, hey, if I run all the guys into the city and they die, if I do that 5 times, I should win eventually, right? I'll just zap Brannigan my way out of this mess and just throw wave after wave of men at them until they die.
And like technically not moving military units, but you can queue stuff up and then just hit shift enter, right?
Yeah.
And not care about, but then your military is not moving around. So yeah, like it could be interesting if that you're basically saying AI take over for military. I'll queue up the stuff I want, AI take over for military. But I agree with Nystagmus that the AI is renowned for making like the most ludicrous decisions.
Even in like another game like Humankind, like I played a few games already where I literally just take the high ground and the AI would just suicide people into you for no good reason, right? Like it just is bad. And the dude in Civ 2, when you get a choke point, they're just like, yeah, whatever, man. I have my cavalry against your pike and shots. I'm pretty sure I can win this. And just like run into your lines. Like
now, like if the AI was smarter, and this is one of the things that I saw was like, well, what if with some machine learning, what if we had some that the AI just grew smarter and smarter?
I think
as
it would
it plays
be unbeatable. You wouldn't.
Well, I think that's how Skynet actually started. Personally, is somebody figured out a way to combine true machine intelligence with civilization, and it figured it out. Or maybe we're living it right now. Ooh.
So if you want to talk about AI, there's one that Elon Musk actually is funding. It's called OpenAI. I know you don't like Elon Musk, but whatever. It plays Dota 2 or League of Legends. If people are familiar with League of Legends, it's a very similar game. It plays Dota 2. So it's 5 characters at the same time that this thing is controlling. And it's a real-time strategy. So think StarCraft. Let's just say think StarCraft. And you have to control 5 different people at the same time. And it's just going and it's doing it. And it's not that it never loses. So this OpenAI plays against professional players who play all the time. They make millions of dollars, and it not only beats them, it beats them badly. Like just actually completely.
So there's a problem with this. So it's not necessarily making the AI smarter though. So for example, I'll give you another real life AI example. So IBM's Watson, right?
Perfect.
So Watson is basically a computer encyclopedia that can talk, right? So it destroys people in Jeopardy because it's smarter than the humans, but because it can just buzz in quicker than the humans can, right? Like So in a game like Dota or like League of Legends or StarCraft or something like that, if someone has like crazy APM, you can make a Marine kill like 1,000 Zerglings because it can just run away from them all the time, right?
Yeah, keep
True.
moving.
And so-
Yeah.
It's not necessarily smarter. It's just that it's able to move faster than the human can. And that's why it translates, because IBM Watson was originally developed to help with things like cancer treatment. And when it actually was put to use to that, it crashed and burned. It was like misdiagnosing people. It was doing all this
Yikes.
crazy stuff. So like, there's a lot to like. AI is a very, very useful tool, but there is a difference between like it learning like actual strategies or just being able to move faster than the human can.
Now, total Zo tangent, but that was kind of the way faster than light travel worked in Andromeda, was that AI could do like tons of amazing calculations. However, it had to be paired up with human intelligence or intuition to be able to predict stuff. And that is something that I think we'll see more of, is the integration of machine intelligence with human intelligence, where we're able to use, because the human computer, our brain, there's just things that it can do that machines will never be able to do, right?
Well, there's
in my opinion.
There's one exception to that rule, and I know this is getting way off Civ, but
Tangent.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
so this is the actual thing behind. We're actually reaching the limit that conventional computers can do, right? And the reason why is computer pathways and microchips use a pathway that electrons run across, right?
Mhm.
Now you can make them smaller and smaller and smaller, but as soon as it gets down to the point where it's like a single line of electrons or two lines of electrons, you can no longer predict where the electrons will be because of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. They can just,
Interesting.
in quantum mechanics, they could just disappear and reappear somewhere else, right?
And this is
And
what
so-
a quantum computer essentially is, right?
Yeah.
Is
So
that
now
you
a
are
quantum
able to compute.
computer is being able to predict those different variables and use that in the computing power. So conventional computers can no longer get that. Do you remember back in the 90s and stuff when computers were like doubling in processing power, like every few months to every couple of years?
Yeah.
That's actually stalled. And that's because we can't make microchips much better than they already are using conventional computers. And so now we need a new type of that. So when people talk about, when we come across other civilizations, for example, in the universe, like type 2, type 3 civilizations, there's a reason why we may not have seen them yet, is because there might actually be a limit to our technology, right? If quantum computers don't work out, then we've basically gotten them as strong as we can get them. And so that's the next big step. We have to look for the next step, right?
It's almost like the fault may be in our stars, in that the fault may even just be in our math, and that we're doing something wrong. As much as we want to think that math is universal, there's still a very human component, right? And I think like there's weird things with mathematics that like they're starting to be able to prove the existence of certain like numbers, even that like technically in the universe, beyond the human hubris, beyond the human experience, that there are these things in mathematics, but still math, which is what computers are, they're just gigantic calculators, right? They're still human devices, and they're limited by our perceptions of things, right? So we might be missing things that's why a computer will be flawed. So that's interesting, that what you say though, that the reason that they may be out there, we just literally, our technology cannot see them, because it's just how our technology is working. That's interesting. Cool.
Well, the other interesting part is no one can get there, right? Meaning there's like a hard limit in the universe. Our universe has a certain set of physics that makes it impossible to do certain things, just no matter how hard you make technology better, right? Because that's always the end all be all in any sci-fi. Technology is like an absolute grind, but we don't know, or we're coming up to the first time in human in history where we're like, is there an actual limit to how much technological progress we can have? And are we getting to it? That's the big question, right? Are we getting to that? I'm not saying that's true or not, but like that's an actual question we should ponder. Like for example, regular spaceflight. I know SpaceX and all that stuff are doing it, but we can't keep doing it with the chemical rockets. They're just too inefficient. And if we don't have another way of getting you to 24,000 miles per hour to get out of Earth's gravity, then there's no other way to get into space other than chemical rockets. We haven't come up with that technology yet, right?
Space elevators.
Yeah, that works
Space
too. Yeah,
tourism.
but the tether, but the
What you do,
tether,
you get a bunch of billionaires. No, go on.
Sorry.
but the tether, we haven't designed a material strong enough to be the tether in a space elevator yet. A space hook we can use, but that still requires chemical rockets.
I remember reading an interesting article about what spiders can teach us about how we make our metals, and that that theorizing like there's a type of graphite that essentially can be woven. Looking at how, because spider web is apparently like if you could make suspension bridges and stuff, like if you had enough spiders weaving together, like that's how powerful their weave is. Like it is a very, and nature has a way of doing things, because, and this is why I think why things like quantum computing, why it would change everything. The capacity to create a universe and destroy it, right? Like that's, the spider has been evolving for millions of years, right? So it's figured this shit out. Humans have only been around.
Boy, ask a question about Civ. Zo and Nystagmus answers. We're not alone in the universe.
We're not alone in the universe. Yeah, that's where it goes. And then it gets to the spiders, where we're talking about building space tethers.
We get stun locked so easily, man.
Well, no, but that it's fascinating, that the idea of that something that we need to do more of, and this is where they're saying, we should, if we want to save the environment, we should start looking at the outlook of looking at like indigenous language and looking at their history and stuff like that, because it's just utilizing nature better, right? That's what we have to do. If we want to save the world, we have to utilize nature better, because nature has been doing what it's been doing for millions, if not billions of years, right? So it's got it sort of fine-tuned, where everything humanity is doing has only come together, especially like with technology, in the last like 10,000 years. On the scale of how long the Earth's been around, that's not a very long time. So when you have millions of years to figure things out, how long have spiders been on the planet, right? So I could see that looking to nature for a lot of the solutions of, well, how are they doing it, right? And then learning and adapting our own methods doing that. So maybe a lot of the solutions are not our own. They're things that we have to look at the world around us to.
I know how we can tie this back to Civ. Here's a weird thought. What if there is a line in the technology tree that you hit, and then suddenly you don't research, but you start combining existing technologies to create new ones?
Yeah.
And they're like not predefined, just kind of like, I guess they have to be in a computer sense, but like there's just all these combinations of like fire and stick. Oh, now you can cook food. I don't know, like as a very basic example. But like that'd be kind of neat. What do you think?
Well, and it's how much of technology in general, is invented, and how much of it is just mixing stuff together, right?
Exactly.
Innovation. Sometimes it's just looking at things from a different perspective, right? So yeah, like, but I think like for that's an entirely different game. Like one of Civ's charms
100%.
is its simplified tech tree. That you just get, if I get to this, then if I have pottery, and then I can get my library. Why? Because there's pots, and then there's books. It makes sense. I don't know. Does it make sense? I guess from the perspective of first you get pottery. Pottery gets you letters. Yeah, you're like, I gotta keep track of how many pots I have.
First writing was done on clay. Pots are made out of clay, so it's for clay work.
Yeah. No. I get it.
I'm fun at parties, by the way.
Yeah, I am fun at parties. That does almost seem though like that's like a cool level of complexity that almost like Spore meets Civ, like where it's just like, like what if we did it this way? Because like humans were around for a long time, and then we started doing things differently. We started nursing fire, and that changed us. And then we started sharpening sticks, and that changed us. And then we started, and like Nystagmus was just saying, the other week. We were in the Neolithic period for how many years? You said 300,000 years, and it's just because it was
for
working.
like 90% of human history.
It was working. The every human was a generalist, and we knew how to utilize horticulture. We knew how to utilize the environment, and we became the top of the food chain, or however you want to look at the apex predator. And that worked for us. And then we settled down, and that opened up a whole new way of looking at things. But it was either way. So yeah, I get it. I think that'd be neat, but it'd be a very different game. Wouldn't be Civ.
Okay, so why don't we wrap us up here?
That's it. We'll wrap it up. Good chat, guys. And you were all worried. What are we going to talk about? There's always something we can talk about. We can talk about spiders and spaceships. Okay?
Yeah, it's some of the Khrushchev scale of alien civilizations, man.
Yeah.
Shout out to the chat today. Chat was very active today. Shout out to you guys. Thanks for being a part of this.
Shout out, chat. Thank you so much for joining us. So we will be together on Sunday. The three of us will all be there, and we may have special guests, the Owls of Tajakin and SG Nominee. Did I say that right?
Nailed it, dude. Nailed it.
I got it. For some kind of bloodbath. And of course, join us next Wednesday, guys. D&D show. Lots of interesting things are afoot. People getting eaten by toads. It's beautiful. It's a DM's dream. So thanks a lot. Do you guys want to raid somebody? I see Foibles is playing.
Yeah, we're raiding Foibles, baby.
We're gonna raid Foibles. Say goodnight, Moy. Say goodnight, Nystagmus.
Night.
Good night.
Hey, if you're Canadian, get out and vote, okay? On Monday, I'll remind you. Vote, and we'll say again on Sunday. Vote. Go out and vote.